few days ago, before the school year ended, I had a chance to go over to Holy Trinity and celebrate Mass there. I think it was the last Mass of the school year, and there was a special celebration because it was in honor of all of the kids who had received their first communion throughout the whole school year. And it was really nice. Everyone dressed up in their first communion outfits, and parents came, and it was really exciting. And today, I want to share with y'all literally exactly what I shared with them, because I don't care if we are in second grade or in the second half of perhaps our time here on this planet. I think we all need to hear the same message sometimes. My favorite movie of all time is Jurassic Park, okay? The OG Jurassic Park, none of this new stuff, right? 1993, Steven Spielberg, masterpiece. I was 4 years old when that movie came out in theaters, so I obviously never had a chance to see it then. My parents were responsible. But since its original release, I've seen it on the big screen for its 20th anniversary, for its 30th anniversary, and actually for the 30th anniversary, this was awesome. I got to go and see it in like a concert hall on the big screen with a live symphony orchestra playing the John Williams score. It was really a standout moment of my life so far. So long story short, though, I know that movie frontwards and backwards. I can quote it from beginning to end. I know all the characters. I know all the dinosaurs. I know when all the characters will get eaten by the dinosaurs. I love this movie. And as a matter of fact, there's only one thing that I don't like about Jurassic Park. And that's that I can never watch it again for the first time. Can never watch it again for the first time. And I remember the first time I watched that movie. It was the late 90s. We were at my uncle's place, and he was always kind of a pioneer in the tech world, even back in the 90s. So he had all the newest stuff, big screen and surround sound. I was like a little kid. I just remember being in awe. You see the dinosaurs on the screen for the first time, and you hear the music, and you hear the roaring and everything, and it's such an incredible experience, and it stuck with me. Obviously, as you can see, it stuck with me when I was little. But here's the thing, I probably watch Jurassic Park even still at least once a year. I'm probably the only 34-year-old in the world who can say that, but I watch it at least once a year, if not more, and I still love watching it. But I would be lying if I didn't say that some of that initial excitement has perhaps worn off, right? And that's, I think, natural. A baby playing peekaboo, you've all played peekaboo with a baby eventually stops being surprised after a while. Our initial reaction to something might be wonder and awe, but if we experience it enough, it can kind of feel a little bit ho-hum. I've seen this. That's what I want to talk about today. Some time ago, all of you, just about all of you, probably, if not all of you, dressed up in your nicest clothes, and you received communion for the first time. Maybe you were a little kid and you got to wear your first dress or your first suit and tie, or maybe you were a little bit older and you were receiving communion at the Easter Vigil or on Pentecost after going through RCIA. Either way, I'm sure you were excited. Maybe you didn't quite understand it, especially if you were little, but you were probably thinking, this is awesome. I get to receive Jesus. This is different, right? His true presence in the Eucharist, the body and blood of God himself. I get to take that as food and receive that into my own body. And maybe it tastes a little bit like a cracker and doesn't taste incredible, but I know that there is something special going on here. And of course, your family and friends were there to support you when you made your first communion. There's a photographer. Everything is kind of amped up. It's this incredible first experience that we've all had of receiving the Lord. And then what happens? Well, you did the same thing the next week, and the week after that, and the week after that, and for many of us, for the next 20 years, 40 years, 70 years after that. Forget about First Communion. Some of us have received communion thousands of times, perhaps even every day. And that's the reality of the mystery that we're drawn into as Catholics. We're reminded today, specifically in the letter to the Hebrews, the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross is a sacrifice made, as we say, once and for all. Once and for all. What does that mean? Well, it's a sacrifice that happens once because it happens in time, right? It's historical. It's not just an idea we have that this Jesus died on the cross. It's a historical event. It truly happened. You could go back 2,000 years ago to the Middle East, and you will see that sacrifice taking place. And we say it's for all because it's for the sake of all people, right? Every single person. Jesus died for every single person. But at the same time, Jesus makes clear at the Last Supper that the mystery of this sacrifice, the mystery of this covenant, should be celebrated over and over and over again. Do this in memory of me, not just for the next 10 years or 20 years, but for all of time. Do this in memory of me until the last day. Do this in memory of me. The sacrifice of Jesus may be once and for all, but the mystery of this new covenant, the reconciliation between man and God through the death of Jesus on the cross, it is represented every single time we're here at Mass. Every time we are here at Mass, we are transported in a supernatural way to that, to the cross, to Calvary. We're there. And that's why we don't call what we do here at a Catholic church, we don't call it a service, we call it a sacrifice. It's the sacrifice of the Mass, and we experience it over and over and over again. And on one hand, that's incredible, right? That's incredible. The true presence of Jesus in the Eucharist is the source and the summit of our faith. Everything that we believe as Catholics, everything we believe about God is contained within that little host that we receive when we come up for communion, every time we're here at Mass. But on the other hand, I think it's also a really challenging thing. Incredible, but challenging. How can we believe something so amazing, but at the same time experience it week after week without going into autopilot, as it were? And I'll be the first to admit it's really darn hard for me not to go into autopilot as well. I even feel that way sometimes as a priest. I'm sure everybody thinks, oh, the priest, he's got it together. He's not distracted in any way, but that's wrong. You know, I'm saying Mass, and even my mind will start to wander sometimes. What do I have to get done today? What time is the football game on? Did I schedule that doctor's appointment I keep forgetting to schedule every single day? And all of a sudden, I realize that I have taken part in the most incredible thing that I could ever do, the most incredible thing that will ever happen in this world, all while being absent. Absent. Because I become too familiar. Become too familiar. It's kind of like, in a much lesser way, of course, kind of like when I watch Jurassic Park. I love that movie. But once you've seen it 200 times or more, it becomes a little bit familiar. So how do we avoid that familiarity, that autopilot? How do we pull up a seat at the table of the Lord's Supper every time we're here at Mass and experience the same sense of wonder and awe and devotion as we experienced the first time we received Jesus on that day of our first communion? How do we experience the same sense of wonder and devotion as those apostles of Jesus did when they saw him raise the bread and raise the chalice and say, "This is my body. This is my blood"? To put it simply, we have to pray. It's a good place to start for just about everything, right? We've got to pray. We've got to pray for the grace. We need to acknowledge that as human beings, we are weak. We do get distracted. We do forget what an honor it is to receive the Lord each Sunday or maybe even more often. That's God on the altar. But in our broken humanity, we forget. So every time you're here in this church, resist the urge to check out, as if you've seen the same movie over and over again. Been there, done that, right? I think that's a temptation. The sacrifice of the Lord is meant to be ever new, always new. Every time we take a seat at the table of the Lord's Supper, we're experiencing the Lord in a different way. He's transforming us in a new way. It's the same Lord, it's the same sacrifice, but we should never be the same. So we come to God with complete humility. Lord, I'm really stressed about this health problem that I'm having. Lord, I'm really anxious about the test results of that exam I didn't study for. Lord, I'm losing sleep over this fight that I had with my spouse or with my friend or with my brother or sister. And Lord, I'm sorry to say that all of these distractions are right here on the forefront of my mind because I've become familiar with receiving you. And I'm doing it on autopilot. I'm doing it without thinking because I've believed this lie that there's nothing new, that because I've done this before, there's nothing new. So help me to remember, Lord, that each time I receive you, your sacrifice is renewed in me. Receiving you into my body will transform me in the place that I'm in right now, with all of my distractions, with all of my concerns, with all of my anger and my anxiety and whatever else. Your sacrifice lives in me now, not yesterday, not a week from now or a year from now, but now, today. So I encourage all of you to make that prayer, of course, in your own words. Every time you come here to the church, every time you come forward to receive communion at Mass, what you do here is better than your favorite movie. It's better than my favorite movie. I don't know what your favorite movie is, but it's better than your favorite movie. I'm sure about that. It's better than your favorite thing in the world. God comes to us on the altar. Let's pray for the grace never to be complacent with that reality, but to experience it ever new each time we come to Mass. Let every communion we receive be like our first communion. Now, switching gears somewhat here, today on this feast of Corpus Christi, we're called to celebrate our covenant between God and his people, made visible, of course, in the Eucharist. Today, as we celebrate the return of a longtime friend to Good Shepherd Catholic community, we remember our covenant with our mission partner in Honduras, and how in spite of the vast distance, we have been in communion for over 16 years. So we've invited today Mr. Wilson Romero to bring witness of the good work that we have accomplished together, all of us here at Good Shepherd and all those who have worked so diligently for the Institute in Honduras. So at this time, I invite Wilson to share a few words with us.